Bon, I'm back. I'm back, baby. I'm back, baby. Back, baby. So, here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. I still have some, damn batteries in my computer, but it ran off after 16 minutes, which is unreasonable, right? I still have some, so I will read some Elber Hubbard before going. Just wait a few moments. It's annoying as fuck to set up a stream. You have to literally copy the stream key right at the moment where you set it up. You can't use the old stream key to stream. You need to copy it and then it works. Even if you just streamed, when you connect you need to copy the new stream key and then use that one, and then that works. But before that it doesn't, so it's just weird. Let's read some. Alright. Page 164. We're paragraph 2, so right there. I once knew a playwright who started in to write a great historical drama, but he got a toothache and decided to make it a farce comedy. But all he produced was a fizzle. Seldom does a man with the toothache make good. And to have cavities in your teeth and not know it is worse than to have the toothache, since pain is nature's beneficent warning. So to have decayed teeth and never have a toothache would mean lack of sensibility, which is lack of life. Such as one hasn't enough nerves to make him irritable, much less to give him artistic grouch. And grouch is unused or misused energy. And have I not said that all energy is divine? You write your poem, your essay, your play, just as you paint your picture, carve your statue, or give your oration out of your surplus, and never out of your capital. Should you begin to draw on your capital, you get nerve, prose, or fatty degeneration of the cerebrum, and are a candidate for Billy Muldoon's. Is oratory a matter of toothsomeness? Most certainly, yes. The greatest orator that New York ever produced was thrown from his artistic hobby horse, once and forever, when his store-thief, in an impassioned moment, shot over the footlights and fell with sickening thud into the orchestra. "Say, mister, are these your teeth?" asked a man in the front seat, as he solemnly arose and handed up the grinders, and that broke up the meeting. I once saw a man, singing the part of Tannhauser, do a similar stunt, and we all declared that he could go down to Venusberg and stay there. For all of us, he ceased to be interesting. Get this down as an axiom. To speak well, or sing well, you must have good teeth. The teeth are organs of speech, auxiliary organs at least. When your voice whistles through your teeth, and the tones come wheezy, and with a sort of sad surprise, there are soon bubbles in your think tank, and you travel home on the rim. It is then time to sing Tosti's goodbye, and retire from the stage, thereafter warbling in only to the gallery of your psychic self. Dentists were not required until man began to feed on mush. All energy is God's, but it may be misdirected. A boy not good enough for a preacher might make a good doctor. An excess of virtue is not required in the recipe for a physician. A short time ago I spent a week in St. Louis. During that week, there were 3 deaths of children from tetanus, lockjaw, all the direct result of vaccination. The Board of Health had been very busy, and all children that could not show a scar were vaccinated. This without consent for the parents or of the child. For each vaccination the city paid the kind doctors delegated to do the work the sum of 50 cents. That is to say, these physicians operated on healthy children, introducing a poison into their systems, thus giving them a disease, in order to prevent them from having one, all for $50 per child. The 3 children that died netted the doctors $1.50. As before stated, these children died, and scores of others were made seriously ill. How many were poisoned for life, no one knows. Children know all that the parents know, and the report that vaccination had killed several struck panic to the parts of those not yet vaccinated. Many children refused to go to school for fear of the doctors, and such was the alarm through non-attendance that the school board called a meeting and passed a resolution asking the Board of Health to desist from these 50-cent operations until the question of the quality of the virus used could be passed upon. Now, there is no such thing as a pure virus. Vaccine virus is a poison in itself, and vaccination, if it takes, always reduces the resiliency or resisting power of the patient, laying him open to any germ that may be flying around that way. The president of the Board of Health took refuge behind the law which required him to vaccinate the school children. But personally, he said, he thought the whole system was founded on a superstition and on a very barren assumption. Said the physician, many people who are vaccinated never have smallpox. A few who are vaccinated have smallpox. To assume that those who are vaccinated would have smallpox if they were not vaccinated is childish reasoning, fit only for those who are willing to accept a tainted plea, because they are already convinced. I must admit that the logic of vaccination is no reason at all, and could only appeal to prejudiced, ignorant, and unthinking people. I wish we were rid of the whole thing, but I am not strong enough to stem the tide. Doctors get paid for vaccination. The books and colleges uphold it. And this thing will go on until the people revolt, which I hope they will do soon. Here we get the expression of an honest man, an allopath physician, caught in the toils of custom. Physicians are instructed from books in colleges and by professors who were taught from books in colleges. This is not knowledge. It is the memorizing of things evolved many years ago by men who knew much less than we do. Very few physicians know how to live. Everywhere you find doctors who are soaked in tobacco, booze, and dope, breathing foul air, thinking vile thoughts, resorting to stimulants as a pick-me-up. These are the men that uphold vaccination. These are the men who assaulted the school children of St. Louis and forced a poison into their healthy bodies for 50 cents a body. Oh, the shame of it. Immunity from disease comes from fresh air, pure water, clean surroundings, and active, useful life and kind thoughts. The fear wrought in a school by one of these bewhiskered rogues, with his outfit of scalpels, scarifiers, and poison, is a cause of disease in itself. The plan of vaccinating the mind with the virus of fear is in itself a crime, and the most common cause of disease. Dr. J. H. Tilden says that the fear of disease, spread abroad by doctors, is the cause of more death than the White Plague. People who live rightly are well. It is right living and sanitary surroundings that have banished smallpox. Just good sanitation has banished the plague, that mysterious disease which swept Europe again and again, and which killed one-third of the inhabitants of London in 1665. I believe with Tilden that the so-called science of medicine has been a positive curse to mankind, just as Christianity has with its bogus plan of salvation. Salvation lies in work, play, study, right living, and right thinking, and not in belief in the death or a good man in Asia 2000 years ago. As a cure for our physical pains, we have looked to a poison doctor, instead of studying the case ourselves and ascertaining why we suffered. We must learn to rely on ourselves, and not put either our souls or our bodies in jeopardy by turning them over to a cure of souls, with collar buttoned behind, or to a hirsute gent who will give you a disease for 50 cents, in the interest of happiness, health, and long life. Have you never shared the mocking shame and biting pain of a drunkard's household? The God grant you never may. When the world withdraws its faith from a man through his own imbecility, his employment is denied, when promises are unkept, when order and system are gone, and foresight fled, and loud accusation, threat, and contumely vary their strident tones with maudlin protestations or of affection, and vows made to be broken, easily changed to curses. When the fire dies on the earth, and children huddle in bed in the daytime for warmth, when the scanty food that is found is eaten ravenously, and blanching fear comes, when a heavy tread and fumbling at the lock are heard in the hall. These things challenge language for fit expression, and cause words to falter. Our knowledge of another world comes to us through persons who cannot always be safely trusted to tell the truth about this. Ouf, c'est chaud, mon gars! Eh, la meilleure quote ever, quand même, hein? The plan of vaccinating the mind with the virus of fear is in itself a crime, and the most common cause of disease. The virus of fear. Eh? Vaccinating the mind with the virus of fear. C'est pretty fucking good, hein? Bon, moi, je commence à avoir froid. Fait que, je sais pas, il reste beaucoup de batterie. Ça a-tu de l'air qu'il reste beaucoup de batterie? 39%, 32 minutes qu'il dit. 32 minutes, hein? Maybe we can make it a little bit more. Nice. Okay, let's try that. Ah, c'est bien drôle, je sais pas où sont les clés du char. C'est drôle, dans le sens que ça n'est pas tant. Ah, juste là, c'est bien cave. Ok. Bon, bah, désolé pour le son là, du moteur. Là, mais c'est la vie, faut bien réchauffer, la vie. Assez pour continuer au début. Là. Juste le clipper là, pour pouvoir l'utiliser plus tard. Là. Page 166. We start about Elf, Philosophy of Elber Hubbard. The fear wrought in a school by one of these bewhiskered rogues, with his outfit of scalpels, scarifiers, and poison, is a cause of disease in itself. The plan of vaccinating the mind with the virus of fear is in itself a crime and the most common cause of disease. Ouf! Le gars, c'est du feu, mon gars, là! Si tu me dirais, genre ça, c'est du Joko Willing, là, comme depuis la tombe, presque, là, parce que le gars, il est mort, tu sais. Mais dingue! Je pensais à lire un peu de Joko Willing. Until the end. Something I saw in combat that I later tried to train out of people was the tendency to relax once the primary objective of a mission was complete. I tried to train that out of them because you can't relax until the entire mission is complete. In training, we always attacked the platoons hard on their primary objective, but we always attacked them even harder after they left the main target. Once the platoons were patrolling back to base, when their minds had already gone home and turned off. That's when we would bring it to them, hit them from multiple angles with all kinds of mayhem. So they would develop the attitude of the muscle memory to keep going until the end. And even when they got back to base, we would retask them so they had to begin planning again. It wouldn't stop. That's the mentality I wanted to instill in them. It is never finished. You always have more to do. Another mission, another task, another goal. And the enemy is always watching, waiting, looking for that moment of weakness, looking for you to exhale, set your weapon down and close your eyes, even just for a moment. And that's when they attack. So don't be finished, be starting, be alert, be ready, be attacking, be relentless. Let the enemy stop, let the enemy rest, let the enemy finish. You don't finish, you don't stop, don't rest. Not until the enemy is completely destroyed. And even then, turn your focus inward on yourself and take the opportunity not to rest, but to make yourself better, faster, smarter, and stronger. Because with those goals, nothing is ever finished. The Philosophy of Elber Hubbard, and we're at page 167. His thought about health. I am told that hospitals, jails, almshouses, and insane asylums are for people who are unable to care for themselves properly. Therefore, they are sent to these places where men and women, specially delegated, spend their lives looking after them. So it seems that the incompetent, in addition to not adding to the wealth of the world, actually take competent people from a world of usefulness to minister to them. After a few years as a guard, the man is quite as incompetent as are the prisoners, and more so, because the prisoner works and the guard does nothing but guard. And for the man who works there is a chance, but the man who doesn't is damned, body and soul. Hospitals, prisons, and poorhouses are places where people live who can't or won't work. These places do not cure our bodily or social ills. They are palliatives, all. They do not prevent incompetence nor stop the production of the weak and incompetent. Every year we have to pull down our hospitals and build greater. Ben Lindsay, Luther Burbank, John Davy, Horace Fletcher, all men essentially of one type, are working to shut off the regular annual crop of criminals. Preachers have preached their silly tales of where we came from and where we are going to, directing the attention of men from this world to another, and with myth, miracle, mystery, with dead languages, dead ideas, and dead formulas, have scarred the world stiff. We have bred from the worst in the worst possible way, under the worst conditions. We have it thundered at us from a million pulpits that the indissoluble marriage tie was a sacred scheme devised by God Almighty, who also provided that women shall be incarcerated in a kitchen. The result has been the doormat wife, with a liar for husband, for men lie only to inferiors and tyrants, and a brood of legitimate candidates for hospitals, poorhouses, and prisons. Christianity was absolutely supreme for 1,000 years. Did she abolish poverty, disease, and crime? Not exactly. These things increased under Christian rule, and religion is not yet willing to step aside and give science a chance. Revivalists get 1,000 children in a room and play on their nervous sensibilities in the name of the gentle Christ, and then the doctors vaccinate them with pus from diseased animals, and we wonder why they die or go insane. The clerics killed Ferrer because he was working to make man free. Freedom means responsibility, and responsibility means the making of decisions. By deciding for ourselves, we grow, and this exercise of the will is deciding what is best to do, and doing it is the only method of attaining growth known in nature. But woman's decisions have been made for her by male man, and so low has she sunk that millions of women are willing that this should continue. The passion for freedom is nature's cry for growth. The story was about as follows. Once in a stagecoach there was a man who carried on his knees a box, on which slats were nailed. Now, a box like that always incites curiosity. Finally, a personage leaned over and said to the man of the mysterious package, "Stranger, may I be so bold as to ask what you have in that box?" "A mongoose," was the polite answer. "Oh, I see. But what is a mongoose?" "Why, a mongoose is a little animal we use for killing snakes." Of course. Oh, but where are you going to kill snakes with this mongoose?" And the man replied, "My brother has the delirium tremens, and I have brought this mongoose so he can use it to kill the snakes." There was silence then for nearly a mile, when the man of Socratic method had an idea and burst out with, "But, Lordy gracious, you do not need a mongoose to kill the snakes a fellow sees who has delirium tremens, for they are only imaginary snakes." "I know," said the owner of the box, tapping his precious package gently. "I know that delirium tremens snakes are only imaginary snakes, but this is only an imaginary mongoose." So a judge of the Supreme Court of the States of New York once said to me, "Divorce should be as free as marriage, and if it were, there would be no more separations than there are now. We give man and woman the right to put their heads into a noose, but decline to let them pull their head out. Those whom God hath joined together no man can put asunder. Also, the word illegitimate should be stricken from the judicial record forever. An act may be illegitimate, but a child never. Why don't you talk like this in public? I asked, and the answer was, if I did, I'd lose my job inside 24 hours. Well, I said, I'll say it for you. If you do, and mention my name, but say you will not. You must not quote me. You can agitate. I can only conform. We are ruled by the archaic. You are working to make man free, and only a free people can be healthy, happy, virtuous, self-reliant, and competent people. Keep her going, but on your life, don't quote me. The great American apostle of negation expressed, once upon a day, a regret that he had not been consulted when the universe was being planned. Otherwise, he would have arranged to make good things catching instead of bad. To write is nothing. To know what to write is much. To paint is nothing. To see and know the object you are attempting to portray is everything. Shall I paint the thing just as I see it? Asked the ingenue of the great artists. Why, yes, was the answer, provided you do not see the thing as you paint it. 169. His thought about Philistia. A long and very carefully written letter from an unknown gentleman who signs himself retired professor has recently reached me. The great obscure favor me quite often with anonymous epistles, but life being short and the waste basket wide, I seldom reply. Yet now an exception must be made, and I answer, retired professor, for the sole and simple reason that he has retired, and in retiring has made the world his debtor. Probably no one act of this man's entire life has been so potent for good as this. He has set all professors without humor a most precious precedent. In gratitude, hoping that this example will bear fruit, I reply, did space permit, I should be glad to print my correspondence, leather entire. But the gist of his scholarly argument is that the society of the Philistines is endeavoring to make freedom universal and paganism popular. He stoutly avers that the ancient Philistines were the enemies of Jehovah, that they worshipped strange gods, and that they were the sworn foes of the chosen people. Now, this is the sad part. He proves his case. The gentleman explains that he would not have seen the Philistine magazine had not his daughter, an unmarried lady of 32, purchased several copies, but from this on, with his permission, no more numbers of this infidelic, infernal machine shall enter his house. My heart goes out to all unmarried lady of 32, especially so when they have fathers who are irascible. Only one worse fate can befall a woman of 32 than to have an irascible father, and that is to have a lover who is irate. Only one worse fate can befall a woman of 32 than to have an irascible father, and that is to have a lover who is irate. Still I doubt not that the daughter of retired professor will find a way to read the Philistine, for booklets laugh at locksmiths. Yet ignorance prevails, for is not retired professor living proof? And so I will say, there lived in the Far East, about 3,000 years ago, a tribe of people known as Philistines. It is a hotly mooted question among the theologians whether they were so called because they lived in Philistia, or whether Philistia took its name on account of being peopled by Philistines. I will not take sides on this issue, but edge closely and simply stand firm on the fact that the tribe called the Philistines